What is your definition of BIM?
I would say that specifically with Beyond BIM as a podcast, when I first started it, I was looking at core 7 dimensions, which are kind of pushing us to the next stage of use of BIM. And those included things like sensing or sensor-based capabilities. And this forms as part of what we know is necessary with digital twins as well. The other dimension includes things like simulation and artificial intelligence, or we could say instead of artificial intelligence, we can use the term advanced simulation. So the use of things like machine learning to try and enhance the accuracy of your simulations or predictability of your simulations. Then there are other aspects that I looked into, or other dimensions, which are, we could class them as emerging technologies that are trying to merge with BIM. Things like blockchain. So the use of this type of cryptography, I believe, in the IT world. So it's just one way of securing the transfer of information as well. So blockchain is certainly another part or another facet that can quite well link with the spread or sharing of information through BIM. So we have advanced simulation, blockchain, and sensor-based technologies. And the other dimension was, of course, things like robotics. So on the construction site specifically, this is something that is gaining increased prominence, and particularly now where we're faced in a world where we're constantly trying to work remotely. So the increased use of robotics and its incorporation into the design data from BIM was another area of interest specifically. I'm trying to remember all the 7 dimensions. Robotics, AI, blockchain. I'm sure there are a few more, but essentially it was emerging tech. So emerging tech that kind of brings us to the next level of informatization of design data throughout the building's life cycle effectively, be it at the early design stages or during construction or during its operation.
It's a way of communicating ideas, basically, or having control over, it's a way of structuring knowledge so you can get the information you want whenever you want it. You don't have to spend a lot of time getting information. That's what it's all about for me.
What kind of information are we talking about here? Is there any special kind of information, or just any kind of information from the concept of a building until the end of it?
There's no limits. And of course, this system we're building, it's like me, I'm a civil engineer, Fred is an architect. So natural, of course, we're doing the construction industry, but this technology will of course be applicable for all of the other industries as well. So we're only starting with the construction and real estate industry. So we're really thinking about going into healthcare after this, actually.
Modeling, yes, and I started, that's also nice. I started always saying it's building information management because it's through the whole life cycle of a building. But then building information management is not the correct term. So I went back to it is building information modeling. And above that, there's asset information management. I see the BIM is more in the design and construction phase. So there you have building information modeling, and that's really important to get the asset information modeling, get the information management.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way track, and I say that everybody, and BIM is a word I try to avoid when I speak nowadays about information management and digitalization, because it's too broad. Everybody sees if you BIM, you solve the problems of everything. They say no, it's only a small part of the process.
Yeah.
And that's also what I said now in the ISO developments. So BIM is not the magical word, the word that conceives it all. And people say, if we do BIM, we don't have any mistakes anymore, say no, that's not true. Because if you don't have the correct information sharing, no correct data in it, it's still rubbish. If it's not organized, not structured, BIM is not the solution. So what I see as BIM is a challenge still, but this gives a lot of opportunity. It will improve our business a lot, and we're still learning BIM, building information modeling, and it's the way to go to make the construction industry as a management lifecycle more efficient, more carbon neutral, but not there yet.
No.
But it's good for that, otherwise someone will be out of a job.
I think first you have to model objects, 3D objects with the volume and not just lines. And once you start attaching some kind of attributes to those objects, that's BIM to me. So whatever you model, it's not important, but if you click on an object, you need some kind of structured data popping up.
Yeah. So you need to connect the information to the object you are modeling. Otherwise, they are just placeholders.
Yeah, and in the old days, it would just be lines symbolizing a 3D object.
Coming back to your question, like how would I explain BIM? I mean, we explain it as a digital representation of a built thing, like a building or a bridge, and that digital representation for us is three things. There's geometry, so you have to describe the building in its form, the shape, the size, so that definitely 3D is part of it, because that's the only way to describe a physical thing, is through describing its form and its location in space, etc. Yes. But there's also the second part is the information, the properties or attributes of information that you need for all the calculations on costs, on energy, on performance, fire rating, so all that useful information in a digital format that you can analyze and work with, rather than in a paper format. But then you still are required under law to have documentation. So if you're going to install a particular material or product into a building, you have to make sure it has a CE mark, it has a declaration of performance, it's been tested, it has a test certificate, etc. So that kind of stuff is still documentation. You're not going to digitize all of that as in a database. So it's the digital representation for us is three things. It's 3D geometry, the information, and all the documentation held in a common data environment. So there's one place you can go to look for stuff. Yeah. And that data is organized and it's managed. We know who approved it, we know who accepted it, etc. And so that's how we describe them.